All right, y'all. Come on in here. Come on in here. It is Timeline Tuesdays. Want to know what's on your timeline? What's in the headlines? We're going to talk it out because that's what we do here. So come on in. Take your time. It's lunchtime. So I hope you've been having a good day so far. Hope nothing's really stressed you out too much. And if it has, take this moment right here to just kind of breathe a little bit. Breathe a little bit. Hear a little conversation. Share this with people. Hit the like and hit the share. Let people know that MsTonya is on these internet streets. We got things we need to be talking about. All right. Let me know where you're from. If you're in here already, let me know where you're from. I love knowing where my people are joining us from. And I thank you for joining us. Put in the comments where you're from. I know I have my people who are from around the PD region. I'm here in South Carolina, Flowtown, Florence. I got a couple good guests that are going to be coming in and joining me a little bit later. They're going to be a part of the conversation. And you know you are always a part of the conversation. But I got to do what I got to do. Got to do what I got to do and go ahead and get this show rolling and introduce you the proper way. Welcome to Talk It Out Tuesday. I'm MsTonya, and we're talking it out. This is where the timeline meets real talk. Life, people, politics, no spin, no fluff. All right? We're putting it all on the table. And I know y'all know this because, listen, the timeline never sleeps, and neither do the conversations. So all of those things that you are scrolling past, you know, we've got a whole lot of opinions going on out here, a whole lot of headlines, a whole lot of hot takes. I see those things. I do. I see them. And I want to talk about them myself. I want to talk about some of those things too. So we're going to get into it and we're going to get ready for it. And I'm going to bring my guests on in here. All right. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are
What's
you
up?
doing?
What's up? What's up?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I love this vibe, boy. I don't know what to put on my relaxing my candles and dim the light or what. Where we go? And you know, I can go with the politics and I can go with the quiet storm.
Listen,
Whatever you want to do. And the bottom line is we talking what adults talk and do.
yes, and that's what it is, man. That's really what it should be. I, as you guys know, and anybody who's been a guest before, and Fatim, you've been here with me, brother. I don't send out any questions, anything of that nature. This is really real conversation, what we get into, and that can be some of it, anything. And basically, we've got the people who come in and join us. We got Jeremy in here already, letting us know that he's from Florence. What's up, man? And you went ahead and let the people know that you were in here. I got Hannah in here with us saying greetings. How you doing? All right. Well, listen, it's a lot going on, brothers.
To
I
say
don't
the
know where
least.
I don't know where you want to start, but I will say this. I woke up this morning and I wanted to be on something a little bit different. I did because I feel like things are really tense. They really feel like they're at a boiling point, and I have no intention of walking around feeling like this all day, every day. So I went and took my walk. You know, my first post I made, I asked people to be very intentional about their words. So if we could talk a little bit before we get dive too deep in any particular subject, let's talk about how important it is to be intentional about our words, particularly when we're online, whether we're doing a live stream, whether we're typing a post.
Mm. Mm.
As a writer, I mean, I don't know whoever want to go first.
You can go first, my brother.
As a writer, my everyday life is reading and writing, and what I often try to push people to do is to, is to really practice the art of writing, even in your posts, and to do your very best to make sure that you convey a very clear message about what it is that you're thinking, feeling, or really trying to say. And I'm not somebody that is going to try to tamp anyone from sharing their actual feelings, because I believe that one of the reasons why we're in the situation that we're in today is that there are far too many entities and individuals that are seeking to control and suppress what it is that we really are feeling and what we're trying to say,
Mhm.
because the system continues to try to circumvent not just the will of the people, but the voices of the people and what it is that we're demanding, that we're calling for, that we're asking. And that feeling, no matter how much you try to curtail the language or try to shape that, you have to sometimes just say it, and it's not always going to come out right. Now, again, as a writer, I try to tell people to put into practice good language, make sure that it's a message that more people are ready to receive and hear, and that's usable, because a lot of it will come back on you. But I think we're in the time now where only one group gets to do that. And so a lot of times I see we're feeling a certain way because we're the group that doesn't always get to say what we really feel. You see, even right now here in South Carolina, we're in a situation where everything that we say can and will be used against you, but it's positioned to just one group, and I think that's where a lot of that frustration and that angst is coming from. Is that only one side is able to say what it truly feels, and it's able to get it out, even if it's just loud and wrong. But we have to really shape carefully what it is that we want to say and how we feel when we put it out there.
Well, well, listen, I hear you, but we know that conversation just cannot be partisan. And that's the thing right now that I think we really need to be very clear about.
Mhm.
Everybody's going to have opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all definitely not going to think alike,
Mhm.
and however you vote, that should have nothing to do with the conversations we're having. That should have nothing to do with a whole lot of things. I remember the days when you know people kept their voting private. Not that it was something that you had to be ashamed of necessarily, but it was just private. Nobody knew whether you were Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever it is. It wasn't a partisan thing. More important than, the partisan side of it was, are you involved? Are you involved in the system? Are you a part of making sure that you get out here and vote and use your voice? That was the bigger issue. What's your thought on that, brother Fatim?
Well, this is interesting, and Brother Javad said, brother, you said a lot that we can unpack, and I'm not going to try to unpack it, but I'll just try to add on what you said. But man, you're right on some of the things you say. I'm about the truth, and the truth makes some people uncomfortable. And I think if you go back during let's just go, we ain't got to go all the way back to Reconstruction. Let's just go back to the Civil Rights Movement. There was more of a common denominator, more of us that were in the same boat, that we was fighting for our liberation and fighting for the struggle. And we put everything on the line. A lot of us put everything on the line. Fast forward to 2025. I'm not watering down a damn thing. I'm just not. I call it like it is, because that's where I come from. I deal with the truth. And if we don't deal with the truth, then they're going to continue to rewrite our history and write what they want to write. Look at what they're doing to this guy, and Charlie Kirk. This guy said some of the foulest things, and even though he has said some of the foulest things, let me just say this: he didn't deserve to be killed. And I'll just say there, political violence is not something that should be there. But we should have been, if we're going to talk about political violence, then we need to talk about Dr. King. We need to talk about Malcolm. We need to talk about Medgar. You want to talk about political violence? Talk about John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy. So don't just talk about political violence when it just happens now, when it happens to those that are in power. That's another thing. What Javar said. It's just like what we say and they say. They can say whatever they want to, where we have to watch and tiptoe around what we say. Why? Because they are in a more powerful position. Look at people that have lost their jobs for certain posts. I'm not talking about insensitive posts, but just stating the truth. And I'm telling you now, in 2025, if we're going to tiptoe and walk around Like you can't say what the truth is, then look where we at now. Look where some of our programs are at. Look at how things are trickling down with them cutting certain things. You got National Guards getting ready to go into Memphis. They're already in DC. So if you can't speak the truth, then what purpose do you have in talking about our liberation as a people? And remember, history don't repeat itself. People repeat history. So
Come
when
on.
people repeat history out there, you need to know your history. That's why when Javar said he's a writer, you got to realize when you write and you understand, you're a communicator, Sister Tanya. You communicate, but you also command the English language. Dr. King commanded the English language. Malcolm commanded the English language, but we're not a monolithic people. We have different ideas, different opinions, but there's one truth. Remember that. So Malcolm may say, you stink. The king may say, you smell about a foul odor. Said the same thing, but said it a different way, where some people look at it, oh, he didn't offend me, but he said the same thing. 2025, looking at where we are, looking at some of the things they say, how do you lower the flags on some of the things that this man, again, he should not be dead, but how do you make a martyr out of somebody that ridiculed us, talked about us, despised us, and then when we expose the truth, then what happens on social media? HBCUs get bomb threats or get
Okay.
threats.
Let's put a pin in that right there, right?
Right.
You're right. So we know, the thing about it is we know the answers to these things, right? We really do. We know the answers, and both of you are absolutely correct. We should not have to tiptoe around conversation. That's not going to make anything better, because the same way that things are said, like I said, it should not be partisan, but we know that it is for some people. But we can't put everybody in that same pool. But my thing is this: if you know that certain things are going to be said, and you know that certain people are polarizing, how does that really affect us as a people? Several ways. Several ways. When you use an example of, Brother Malcolm and Martin Luther King. They dealt with things and situations in two different ways, because I could say this, okay, well, yeah, there's people out here who are saying things that I absolutely think are horrible. And unfortunately, they have the freedom to say those things. And unfortunately, they are saying things that I've heard before. They're saying things that I have to be willing to hear, because the same way that I want to express myself, and the same way that we are expressing ourselves here, they have that right. So I have the right to hear it or scroll past it. I just want to know, like, why is it that we feel like anything that someone says that we disagree with, and that's always going to happen, why do we even have to respond to it online? I just feel like online has just opened up a floodgate of getting people so frustrated with each other. And it really is not a large of a population than you think. Yeah, we're online, we're communicators, writers, and we talk. We talk for a business, for a living. But there's a lot of people I know who doesn't even know who the guy was. Let's be
I'm
real
here
about that.
for it, which is why you shouldn't have an opinion. If you don't know who the man was, then how are you defending him and speaking up for him and involving yourselves in these conversations? I'm here for it. I waited my entire life for this technology because I've been waiting to uncover the devil every day of my life. And so every day of my life, I get to see people who are exposing themselves, who are talking about their true feelings of who we are. It can be very difficult for people who are looking to be more centered, who in this age of technology and this age of tribalism and partisanship, to feel resolved. But that's what you want to deal with first before you come into this space. Don't be an unresolved person coming into a fight that you know nothing about and you don't yet know yourself enough to be able to govern yourself in a way that is going to be and add something productive to the conversation. But nonetheless, I'm here for the conversation. And if you want to jump into the conversation, let's have it, because all of it is a moment to edify. All of it I see as a teaching moment. Now, what I've had to do is to practice the type of filtering, to practice making sure that the way that I'm responding, which ain't always it. Now, I'm gonna tell you, because I'm quick to call you retarded or something. I'm gonna keep it real with you. You want to act stupid, I'm gonna be the one to call you stupid. I'm that guy. But I'm gonna use data. I'm gonna use facts. But we're dealing with people that are not. They're not there. When the first thing that I learned in beginning to really write the news was that we live in America in one of the most uneducated societies across the globe. And if you don't bring certain things to people at a sixth grade level, it's going to go right over their heads. So, really and truly, what you're seeing is who we actually are and who we've always been. There's no need in trying to control that or to reshape it into something else. Now is the time to let it out. So often, people on both sides of the aisle have been bottled up and controlled by their partisan systems, both Republicans and Democrats. We each deal with the same things and at the same level with the same gravity on both sides. We just don't know that because we think one over the other. But the truth of the matter is, we're all dealing with the same thing. It's the same system, just dressed up differently. So I use social media and I use all of my platforms as an opportunity to educate and edify those that are ready to go. And those who are not ready to go, who get online spreading evil, hatred, indignation, all of the types of things that we see that is toxic, I have space and room for them too. Because if that's the fight that you want to have, listen, I don't have to get out here and call you outright names, but what I'm gonna try to do is use that as a moment to teach you. First, I'm gonna show you some love. Let me just say that. The first thing that I like to do is be an example and an emblem of love. And I know that can be very difficult for people that really have high tensions. Tensions are really high. We believe what we believe, we know what we know, and many of us just get online to prove that we're right. That's not what I do, Tanya. I get online to try to help people understand my way of thinking, why I believe what I believe. And I believe that that's going to be the light that's necessary to be able to show people another way. But that's not always the case. And some people are not online to be illuminated. Some people are there specifically with the type of agenda that we see with this man that was brought to an early end. And I'm with my brother here. I don't believe that at all.
Mhm.
That the way that he died should have been that way. And with that though, I recognize that the way that you died does not redeem how you lived.
Respect. And the thing, the thing that bothers me just a little bit because that's just not in us. I don't know anyone who thought that that was right. And so for people to have to come online and before we have a conversation to have to even express that makes absolutely no sense to me. None whatsoever. No one, no human with real feelings would think that that was right. So, I really want us to get beyond that conversation strictly because we know that it could be a big distraction. We've got a lot going on. We've got so much that we need to do and so many things that we need to be paying attention to in our communities. We have elections that are coming up in November, and there are elections going on all across the nation right now. And we've got to make sure that some different decisions and different policies are being made. And I know that certain things on social media are being used specifically to keep us off track and to make sure that we don't accomplish that goal. If the idea is to divide and conquer,
Hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
So, talk about how you feel that affects
Yeah.
us. Go ahead, brother.
Well, let me just say this because and I'm not going to keep saying this on the show. Sister Tanya, thank you for this is the first time I'm meeting Brother Javar, and I like this brother because he says what he says, and he seems like he means what he says, and I like that. And I like the spirit that he says. And I agree with him when he talks about this is the space we're in. We're not in the, and I throw this out there. Some people don't even know when I say Walter Cronkite, we're not in those ages now. And I always tell people that the more that you are a chameleon in times, the more that you can adapt like a chameleon, the more times you can be successful. We are in this space now of social media. That's how we communicate. When Michael Jackson died, who broke the story? TMZ. What did most of the people say? Did CNN have it? Did MSNBC have it? Did CBS? Did ABC? No, they didn't go with it right away. TMZ. Then Kobe died. Who breaks it? TMZ. The point I'm trying to make is that things change. How we tend to look at things. Sometimes we get caught up in the old way that we can't see the new way. And it's how you utilize technology. You can utilize technology in a positive way, and you can utilize technology in a bad way. Now, going to the springboard of or something else, Brother Jafar said. Yes, we all have opinions, and it comes down what your agenda is. If your agenda is teaching and trying to make a difference, you don't want to waste too much time arguing and debating with people that A, is not well informed. But we always got to listen, because our way is not always the right way. So it's always about sharing ideas, because we can grow from the old and the young. We can do that. But like Dr. King said, you cannot put energy into an idea that doesn't have any effect, because what you're doing is blowing off steam and you're not being effective. That's it. Now, Sister Tonya, I'm going to keep it real. You said something. I do know people that's ready to go to war. I know people's ready for the revolution. I know people on both sides of the house. See, back in the 90s, we took a chance on open line on 98.7 Kiss FM, which is defunct in New York. And I'm on WBLS in New York now. And one of the things is that we brought on the Aryan Nations, one of those racist organizations, two white individuals. Their last name was Metzger. It was the father and the son. The reason why we brought them on, because we wanted Black folks to hear what the Aryan Nation and some of these organizations thought of them and what their philosophies were. And what they said, and the only thing that we told them, they could not say the N-word. We were not going to have no disrespect like that. But you can say anything, and your philosophy, you don't have to water anything down. Because sometimes you got to hear this. So there are people, because when you start going after HBCUs, when you continue to keep your foot on people's neck, everybody ain't about singing, we should all get along, we shall overcome. People are tired of seeing our people die in the streets. We're tired of seeing every time that we push to get through, because of the color of our skin, that we're held back. So there are people that, I hate to say this, they didn't give a damn what happened to this individual. Now, we didn't say that. Now, what I'm saying, please don't take my words out of it. We all said on the show that this man should not be unalive due to the words that he has said. But you got to realize, and I'm going to say it, sometimes you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. And that's not me. This is the where we are at now. And if you
listen,
go ahead.
I feel like we've always been there. We've always had people who are going to be on both sides. From the very beginning, we were talking about Malcolm and Martin. There's always been that. There's always going to be, everybody has a role to play. I think it's important for people to know what their role is. And I think it's important for people to be effective. Again, what it all is going to come down to is making sure that a whole lot of these policies we're seeing being rolled back. That's really what it's about.
So in order to be able, sure, go. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
In order to get there, right, we have to have a clear plan and a strategy to be able to do that. Now, along with my journalism, I am boots on the ground. I'm someone that is across the state of South Carolina, organizing in different places where, even Democrats are not present. One of the things, and since we did mention Malcolm and Brother Martin, I think it's really important for us to know that these two leaders, during the last parts of their lives, were very unpopular amongst their own people because they understood that in order for us to move forward, have you ever heard the term sweep around your door before you come and sweep around mine? There are many things that, and let's take for instance, Brother Martin's last work from his sermon, A Knock at Midnight. Community or chaos, where do we go from here? Since we asked so many times about where do we go from here,
Right.
a lot of times we're not ready to talk about how we move forward and where we go from here. Because in order for us to understand how to move forward, we have to deal with the principle. We have to deal with the things that are in our own community that are keeping us from packing out the gallery, from showing up to vote, supporting candidates like both you and I. I've run for Senate, you've run for office. In order to be able to get the support that's necessary to put the people in power that represent our true shared values, goals, and mission, we have to actually have the informed citizenry to do that. But the reason why Brother Malcolm and Martin were so unpopular at the time of their deaths was because they recognized that you can talk about the white man did this and did that all day long. But when you bypass speaking about the individuals that Carter G. Woodson and the miseducation of the Negro talked about were among us's, who were actually leading the charge to disenfranchise us, to obstruct healthy information, and to make sure that the critical systems that are necessary to set up in marginalized communities, not just Black people, because we know that when Black people are liberated, everybody in this country benefits. But those systems are necessary to be put in place. But foundational Black Americans are some of the most hard-headed individuals that are making it difficult for us to make sure that the more than 5% that we need in South Carolina amongst a population of marginalized Black, white, and other people to step up to create more constitutional officer power in the state happens. Why? Because we have a system of control within our own ranks and within our own group and among us, because they don't want to feel like relics. They don't know who they are without that foundational power. They don't know who they are without being the head of this organization or that organization. So it's very difficult to do the work that you and I and my brother here want to do without the resources that are attached to those foundational Black American organizations that Dr. King and Brother Malcolm were talking about. And understand something, I've been to the national table. We're talking about billions of dollars that are being obstructed from flowing down into the grassroots system to make change really happen. And when I look beyond the veil, when I look behind the curtain, when I look backstage, I see it's us that's sitting there. It's very difficult to do this work. It takes a lot of resources. It takes a lot of gas and oil and sleepless nights, hotel stays and travel to be able to get in a community and help them understand why voting is still important. And it's our own people. And it is partisan. Every time we look around, it is partisan, because if it's not the Republicans, it's the Democrats. And when you look at the Democrats, you see who is really pulling the strings, who is the puppet master that's keeping us from being able to reach our goal. And you talked about voting local. I put a lot of emphasis on local, and that includes elevating local voices, local stories, the unsung heroes. I just came from the marker, the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission, who is honoring the Honorable Judge Harold Bulwer, who I didn't even know was in my own community. They just put a plaque, a beautiful plaque up to the man, born in 1913, died in 1983. I was born in 1982, and he was the heartbeat behind Brown versus Board of Education through Briggs versus Elliott. And they didn't even give the man credit. And the NAACP, who became a Richland County judicial icon. And yet he is an unsung hero because they don't want us to know the truth about what's happening in our own community. And that is making it hard for us to move forward.
Let
It
me
is.
jump in on here because the Javar,
Come on in,
you gotta
brother.
stop, Javar. All this, you going from A to Z, man. Go to A to F, man. You go to A to Z. On point. And it's, and I don't want to go too far back, but let's go back to what he said about Dr. King, because that is his last book. Where do we go from here? Chaos and Community. And in the back of the book, Dr. King leaves a blueprint that everybody overlooks and glosses over. He leaves a blueprint of how we should move together. and how we should move. Again, that's the 60s, and we get it. We get it. But sometimes we don't even know, like Brother Javar, we become ignorant to the people that we follow, the words that they say. You need to, a lot of people don't even know that Dr. King wrote over 6 or 7 books that he wrote. Strength to Love. Where we go from here? Chaos of Community. He wrote Why We Can't Wait, the letter from the Birmingham jail. But Javar said something, and you said it so quick, I wonder if it went over people's head. A lot of us get in our own way. And that's what I wanted to make the point of, from the 60s to where we're at. A lot of Black folks have made it. We haven't made it as a collective, but some have made it to the point that they got comfortable. And when they get comfortable, when people speak the truth, it makes them uncomfortable because it starts to shake their world and shake the people that they're around. Number two, the comfortability is that the dollars, Brother Javar said a lot of stuff, the dollars that are trickling down that our folks are controlling and coming from organizations just like AIPAC. AIPAC controls so many of our Black politicians that they can't speak out about the genocide going on in Gaza, in Palestine. They can't speak out against it. So now we got to fight the power structure. That's what Brother Javar said. Now we move from the individual to the power structure. We're going into the system. That's what Dr. King was talking about when he spoke out about the Vietnam War. That's what he was talking about, the power structure. That's what Dr. King, Malcolm was talking about, the power structure. When you start to go after the power structure, you're going after the moneymaker. You're going after what built America, and now you are affecting their food chain, you're affecting their livelihood, and you're affecting the lies that they have built to stand up on. Because when you expose the truth, then the falsehood tend to crumble. And that becomes the problem. But then us are people that reap the benefit by working and holding us afoot because of money and power and position, then we get in our own way. That's why I just don't deal with just black and white no more.
It's not.
Because we got white folks that are, listen, I met somebody, a white lady that has really been organizing here in Florence, South Carolina. So don't tell me that it's just black and white. No, it's good against bad now. And I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Sister Tanya.
Well, I mean, you're right. You know, they want to make it seem like it is right against left, but it really is right and wrong. And that really is what it is.
In America, though, Sister Tanya, it's rich versus poor.
I was just about to say that. We have to acknowledge the caste system.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so important. This is about money. You've got to follow the money. And also, I mean, we could talk a lot of times when I do my podcast, you might see me. It could appear that I'm thinking a lot, and I am. And the reason why I do that, because there's different ways to have conversations. And when you're having conversations with different people, you know where a person can go and how they can flow. But I also know how important it is to make our information available for everybody. And so you've got to talk plain. You've got to talk common.
And that's why I appreciate this show. This show, and kudos to you. This show is very important. We have to talk. Our voices have been silenced for way too long. Sister Tanya, you would be amazed at how I sit and edify and educate white people. They have never heard of Hinton Rowan helper. They've never heard of the term helperism. They don't even know that some 5 million of their ancestors that were living on the outskirts of society because they could not compete with enslaved labor were bartering with enslaved people. They were being attacked and brutalized by the same law enforcement, the same police that the slave catchers, if you will, that we were dealing with. The master and planter classes, just like right here in Richland County, Wade Hampton and Wade Hampton III. We see Columbia as this historic city and it's the capital, but nobody really talks about the 3,000 slaves that he owned right downtown. that he fed cottonseed instead of corn in their rations, and talked about how they died like rotten sheep. He was also hunting white people, poor white people that were demanding work, that could not compete with the system of enslaved labor that had them living off of the land. We wonder why white folks know how to hunt, ski, shoot, fish, and all those other kinds of things, but it's because they had to. It's a system of rich versus poor. And the wealthy have used all of their systems and at every opportunity to keep us at each other. We can even go back to the 1633 Virginia House of Burgesses when the partus sequitur ventrum was introduced into law. The offspring follows the belly, and how essentially black women became the property um, of white men to be able to increase their wealth, and to make sure that, unlike English tradition, the offspring would then inherit the status of the father. They needed to do partus sequitur ventrum to make sure that the offspring that they were creating with with enslaved women effectively became their property and didn't inherit anything, even though those were his children.
Okay. Okay. Listen, that's beautiful. I've got some people in here right now who I know greatly appreciate this conversation. But let's be real. We've got a lot of people who are not reading. We've got books that are actually being banned, and for the very same reason, because no one wants everybody to be as knowledgeable as what you just spoke about. Knowing your history, knowing who you are, knowing where you're from. I mean, how do we connect and communicate with a population of people who, quite honestly, when we talk about boots on the ground, they're talking about a totally different boots on the ground. They asking where your fans at, okay? Popping fans, okay?
Yeah, trail ride.
Right. So
Trail ride.
we're talking about two totally different boots on the ground.
Yeah.
But
And
we're talking about, go ahead.
that's what keeps us in the darkness, and that's the problem. They keep us distracted by this, and there's nothing wrong with having a good time, but the bottom line is that they distract us. They keep us on the defense. See, it's one thing is, and we get frustrated because you both are organizers. You both ran for political office, and you both are organizers. But as you being an organizer, you know what it is. It is also being offensive. It's about being creative. But when they keep us as a collective, as Black people, on the defense, it's hard to play offense when you're on the defense. So when you are distracted, when you talk about the boots on the ground, look at this. We got the was it last year, 2 years ago, NAFAC came out, the No Effing Around Coalition. And these were brothers and sisters that were armed militia, Black armed militia out there. But when you talk about the boots on the ground and do that comparison, Sister Tonya, it just shows where we're at and what our mindset is. And a lot of us, because we are surviving, we're not living. We survive like roaches, then we're not living. And when when your back is against the wall, then you're not going to political meetings. You're not going to the school board meetings. You're not going to the PTA meetings or PA meetings for your children, because you got to work. You got to come home. You got to take care of the family. You're always on the defense. You're not strategizing. Just like Brother Javar said, we need to strategize. We got to somehow play offense, because if we don't strategize, then how do we understand what is being utilized against us? And then number two, we can't use the old playbook of the 60s and the 70s. We cannot.
Listen, I hear you. I hear when you and I hear a lot of people say we can't use the old playbook. You're absolutely right, but we shouldn't throw the books out.
No, I didn't say. Yeah, I should tweak that.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
And the reason why I say that is because we see and we know what this new technology is doing for us. Yes, it is a tool, and we absolutely should be using it. But there are things that we have to do that are not in the light of everyone's sight. That is not in the light of being online. Everything we do and how we do it just cannot be done that way. And there are things that were done in organization that was done in a real grassroots way that social media will just not be able to compete with. It cannot. You cannot do this on social media alone. Now, and especially us, because we don't. You got to look at.
We don't got the time to do that.
We not only do we not have the time, we don't have the algorithm. So unfortunately, and we know how important that algorithm is,
Yes,
because
we
as important as we individually could feel like this conversation is important, and we've got people in the comments who are even say that we've got how you doing, Miss Bequilla Cannon? She said, I simply love the dialogue. People are appreciating it, but we also know that this isn't going to be pushed in the algorithm. No one wants this information to be out in that type of way. So we have to find ways that are from the old playbook, and we've got to use them.
But how do
at
you reach the
Otherwise,
home,
young people? But how
at
do you reach
home.
the how do you reach the young? See, this is interesting when you say that, because right now, if Cardi B says something or does something and it goes on TikTok, tomorrow morning, so many young people will be in that conversation.
mhm.
In New York City, there was a young influencer that I'm giving out PlayStations. He flooded 14th Street in,
Well, you
in
you
Midtown
just said it.
Manhattan. So what I'm saying is that you're right. We can't always look at this as the only tool, but we gotta go to spaces where our young folks, where other folks are at, and utilize that tool to communicate with them. Because if we don't, because I'm telling you, you're getting young people when they see police brutality or some other things that's unjust, you start to get them to talk about it. Just like when Vice President Kamala Harris was running for president. A lot of people started to see how she was treated. And you start to see more young people putting in the dialogue. Now, you, Sister Tanya, you, Brother Javed, and myself, we're up here on the political realm. But when it comes down to some young people, they are not there. So when they start to see how Vice President Kamala Harris was treated and how things was biased at times, you started to get more young people conversating for it or on that. So we got to meet folks and utilize the tools. So you're right. We don't want to throw out the old playbooks, because you know why? Because our adversary uses our playbooks.
There it
They
is.
use the whole thing about marching to expose things. Marching doesn't solve a problem. It exposes a problem. That's another thing. We got to realize, what do? They suppress our vote. But then we say, well, voting don't work. Well, then why would our adversary suppress our vote if the vote don't really count? See, we got to understand our power and how we don't utilize it. When you put people in an office, you just don't vote and then send them to the office that they're there. You hold them accountable. And if they don't do the job that they said they were going to do, you vote their asses on out. You got to hold people accountable, even when you vote for them. You can't vote for them and then wait for 4 years to say, oh, you didn't do nothing for me.
That's the problem that I am twixt in today. And let me just add two things, because my brother Fatin is right. Let me back up just a little bit. The greatest work that you could, people ask me all the time, Sister Tanya, where do we start? Where do I begin? I tell them all the time, at home. Because the greatest work that you could ever do is in the walls of your own home. That's where you have the most control and power. Start at home. Don't go trying to rally and organize other people if you can't even do that in your own home and family. Start there. Make sure that at home you all know and understand what's going on, even in your neighborhood. Focus at home. Don't get caught up in all of the things that are happening. We've tackled some pretty, tough, high level conversations in just this 43 minutes. But don't get wrapped up in any of that. Don't lose sight of what's going on in your own home. Focus on what's going on at home, and try to make sure that the people around you are informed, and vet really good information for your family, and then let that spread out and go from there. But I haven't even really been able to really get to the heart of the Republican Party, because I've been so focused on trying to get folk in my own community and in my own party to understand that what they're doing is wrong, and that they are continuing to gaslight and misinform the people who make up the largest electorate in the Democratic Party. because we don't want to be held accountable. Every time I call them on the mat, they blame the Republicans. But I'm saying, what are you doing while you are working against them? I know you don't have a lot of votes here in South Carolina. People are listening from other parts of the country. Democrats continue to claim that they are a super minority, but yet they are not doing anything to make sure that they can win back some of the 88 seats that we lost in our state house, right? And so those of us that understand that more could be done because we're actually on the ground doing that. Some $6 million in my community to make sure that my community doesn't get wiped off the map. That's not something that Democrats are going to give me credit for, or the other 27 neighbors that helped make sure that the South Carolina Department of Transportation didn't wipe our community out. Democrats continue to obstruct. The reason why we continue to not elevate the literature that comes from our contemporaries, the reason why you don't hear our ancestors' voices ringing from on top of buildings, is because when you get down into the text, the ancestors were writing about who we were as a people during Reconstruction, who they saw us, how they saw us, and how we were even moving back then against each other. When we go back to that book, Chaos or Community by Dr. King, he called out the D9 organizations. He called out the NAACP. He called out the church. He called out the organizers and said that we had become so set on our social, our colors, our signs, and our symbols that we have let go of the actual movement. The reason why we don't want to deal with the literature as it stands, and the reason why you don't hear Black leaders talking about these things, is because they understand that there's going to be a point where you are not going to get around dealing with your own self, dealing with your own stuff, dealing with the leaders that are around you that are making it difficult for leaders like you, me, and my brother here, Fatin, to be able to cut through the noise. My biggest enemy today is not my brothers and my sisters, it's AI, who want to be the authority for everything that I write. The AI technology is going to give an answer that I provided to it, but it ain't even going to really give me credit. So I'm not out here fighting with my own people, or at least not I'm not trying to, but if you bring the fight to me, it can be about that. But there is no way, Sister Tanya, Brother Fatin, to get around dealing with your own stuff, dealing with our own leaders, calling out our own hypocrisy. And that's not always going to be in private anymore, because we are living in the time of the Jetsons. I'm telling my age. I don't know if y'all remember the Jetsons.
That's
Okay.
right. They
But it's
predicted flat
out there,
screen
my brother
television.
Fatin.
Yes, you're right.
He said it earlier. We're just not in that time. I'm a grassroots organizer, and I don't put everything out there. I just can't because I'm too busy. But I do try to keep up with my following, and I clean my following. I clean my friends. I clean my followers so that I can drive real leads, so that I can put in my community real resources. But we are in a time where, you remember when they came after Bill Cosby? People
Yes.
forget that the reason why they came after Bill Cosby, because he had started a tour and was talking about the ways in which Black people were moving. And some of our own people did not appreciate this. They always use our own people to come after us when we are getting too close to liberating our own people. And that's what I'm saying about that.
And let me just
What?
add on that, and I'm glad that you mentioned about Bill Cosby, because not only the tour that he set up, and look at what him and his wife did for the HBCUs, and then when he decided, look, you know what, I think I'm going to buy NBC, and that's power, because now we can control the images and the voices of how we are looked upon. At the end of the day, oh no, you cannot do that. No matter long as we are the puppeteer and you the puppets, everything is cool. But when we want to become the puppeteer, that becomes a problem. And
Well,
that's the problem there.
you're right, but let's look at what has happened with even network media today. I mean, we don't even live in that time anymore.
Mm-mm.
It really is about a set amount of technology
Is it
billionaires.
technology or who controls it also, Sister
Yeah,
Tanya?
that's well, that's
Network, who controls these networks now?
Who
When you are
owns
the
controlling,
tech.
Tubi?
That's what I'm saying. The tech Fox, the tech billionaires, but people don't know it. And they did the same. But you say who owns Tubi, and just like how Fox has changed from Fox started out even on television with our
In
culture
living
and our people.
color. Yep.
Right. And it switched over to what it is now. Tubi started out with our culture, showing us those same older films and TV shows. And now Tubi has changed now. So we're always used in that way. But I wanna just go back a little, not really go back, but let's just talk about how that truth, you said it. Our own people are against us sometimes. That's right. But we have to admit and acknowledge that all skin folk ain't kin folk.
Correct.
Okay. And some of our people are bought out. Some of our
Right.
leaders are bought out. Know that and recognize it. And they send our leaders in our neighborhood to sprinkle a few little crumbs around to make it look as if they are really for us and doing something for us. But if you follow the money, if you follow who is truly backing them, you will see, well, hey, this doesn't really look like what we tend to represent, because I see that they're backing here, but they're doing something else on the other side of town.
That's when I became the threat. See, the whole time that I was talking about the neighborhood killings, I worked for 5 years to help decrease crime by 60% in my community. It was one of the deadliest places in South Carolina because it was just that place where they were pushing all the black people to out of the city of Columbia to gentrify it. As long as I was marching and rallying and advocating for the young men who had been slain and the people that and the young black men that they were locking up, I wasn't really a threat. But when I changed face, did an about face, and said, what is the prevention mechanisms? I started driving up to Washington, D.C., because I couldn't get no support here in South Carolina from those black leaders, Sister Tanya, that you're talking about. I had to go up to Washington, D.C. to understand what real crime intervention looks like. And when I started looking at the numbers, yeah. When I started really looking at the numbers, when I started looking at the amount of money that was being sent down to my local municipality from the state and how much the state was getting, and once I started looking at those 300-page documents before Chat GPT became a thing, really, one state agency sent me a 3-foot document that we had to go through to really look at what the programs look like and where the money was being allocated. They was moving money in all kinds of different directions with no oversight or accountability. And when I looked at what the budget looked like, Sister Tanya, there was a marker, but there was no description. There was a marker, but there was no footnote, or there was a footnote, but then there was just a number. When I started being trained by the former county administrator to look at what the accountant's notes, where they were, when I started going to zoning and planning meetings, when I started going to county council and then collecting the agendas and the minutes and assigning my neighbors to go in my steed and you go sit for an hour. Once we started getting all of that information and pulling it together, we saw that black people in the state of South Carolina were missing over $380 billion over a 10-year period of time. And law enforcement across the state in every county, all 46 of them, represents greater than 30% of the county's budget. And we arguing with each other about who's more popular. You need to be arguing about who you keep electing as the sheriff, who you keep electing as your county council or city council person, because they are the person that is voting for sometimes 30, 40, 50% of your county budget to be used for law enforcement and for the militarization of the police, as opposed to investing it in the community. Because when you invest in people and when you reduce poverty, you reduce crime. But that's too much like right. And you're right. Our people are bought and paid for. And they are so afraid to lose their status and their special place and their VIP convention ticket that they are not going to advocate for us. And when you follow the money, that is when you become the real threat. Because that's what it's about.
How in the hell that's happening in South Carolina? How in the hell is that happening in South Carolina? And then you point somebody in South Carolina to head up the DNC, and you expect leadership. Okay, I'll leave that one there for that. Let me just comment on what Brother Javar said just now on the leadership thing. We as black people love a good sermon. We love a good sermon. You know what Sunday at church. Y'all in the chat, amen. All right, we love a good sermon. But see, when you talk about leadership, when we look at one person as a leader and they take that leader out, they cut the head off. Once they cut the head off, the body dies. We got to even understand what's the difference between motion and a movement. See, motion is for a moment. Movement is for a time. And it makes a difference. And we have not really had really strong movements in this country, because when we did have strong movements, what happened? Those that tend to lead those movements, they cut them down. And when they cut those leaders down, the body, the movements die. We got to understand the power that we have, because a lot of us are looking out there. It's the same complex as religion. We look out here for God, but don't look in here for God. We look out here at leadership, and for someone to deliver us to the promised land, instead of looking in that mirror and saying, just like Brother Jafar said, it starts at home where you control. It starts with you. Stop saying, what are they going to do for us? What is this person? What are you going to do for your damn self out there? That's how you become a leader. That's how you become a leader.
I'm gonna leave you with this, a little something that really kind of messed me up. The year before last, I went to the Moral March, and it was my first time really getting to spend time with the illustrious Dr. William J. Barber. I don't know if you all know him, but the People's Movement, the Workers' Movement, the Moral Majority.
Of course.
He stood in the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. And I said, Dr. Barber, I've been writing you. I've been calling your clerk. I've been calling the church. I've been trying to get in touch with you, because he had been instrumental in a movement in Rock Hill. And I just was saying, we need a movement. We've gotten it off the ground, and I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. And he said, I know. What you mean? He said, you need to understand something. When myself and Sharpton or Jackson come and start a movement and get the people riled up and ready to go, and then we leave, so does the movement. That's just what my brother Fatin just said. They cut us down. And because we don't rally around each other, because we don't identify or call out the people among our community. And I know this is going to be something new, but follow me. If we do, the Department of Justice told me that crime in Black communities would stop when it was no longer acceptable in the community. Things in our community would stop happening when it would become no longer acceptable to us as people. We do not call out the people in our own community that are setting traps, that we know ain't doing right, that we know are making it hard for us, that are the individuals that are selling us out. We don't say anything to them. We let them continue to coexist in our places of worship, in our community meetings, in our neighborhoods. We don't say nothing. We don't chastise them at all. That's what we've got to get to. The
Well,
Bible says if you have an ought against your brother, you ought to go to him. Now is not the time to not be confrontational. You can do it with love. You can do it with resolve. But we have to begin calling out those people that are among us that would pay the shooter, that would pay the corporate, that would let them pay them to be able to do us real harm. And if we do not begin calling out those foundational Black establishments, those foundational Black Americans, those individuals that are among us, no matter what color they are either, if we don't begin calling those systems out, no matter who they are, we are going to continue to repeat the same cycle of injustice that we have always seen, because we know who they are. We know who the people in our community that are killing up our young folks, and we don't even turn them over to the law enforcement. We've got to change that mindset, Sister Tanya, and we've got to begin using our voices and what we know and putting that out there so that those people do not find comfort and complacency, as Brother Fatim talked about, and are complicit in this system of oppression, and it is to our detriment. It's to our
well,
detriment.
listen, this has been a conversation that I hope a whole lot of people get an opportunity to share, because this is lunchtime. A lot of people at work and they've got that hour. I try not to take too much away from them. People need to keep their jobs because the grocery prices are still rising.
Oh, no, no,
You
Nothing.
no.
got to put
Trump
them on
said
lyrics.
yes. Trump
You
said
understand?
elect him and the grocery prices to go down. We haven't seen
Listen,
black unemployment in the 7 figures, 7 point so and so in how long?
How long?
How long?
listen,
Tanya,
over 350,000 black women have
yeah,
lost their jobs
job.
within this last 8 months.
Yeah.
But
Sister
I
Tanya,
want
real
to
quick, I just want to add this one thing real quick, real quick. Douglas Guidry, who I know him, he's out of Louisiana. He said it's hard to venerate this man. He's talking about Charlie Kirk. Venerate this man even in his death. I don't condone political violence, but once he's gone, all bets are off. There should be a level of respect for the deceased and his family. Douglas Guidry, thank you for contributing and watching. And I agree that there should be respect for the deceased.
well,
But
here,
when there is falsehood put on the deceased, what did Martin say? He said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. We cannot allow for someone, in the president of the United States, to put falsehoods out here on this individual where
but
we
listen,
know he despised black people. So we have a job to correct what is wrong. So it's not that we're being disrespectful to the deceased. What we are doing is correcting the falsehood that is being said about that man. That's
absolutely.
what
Listen, people are having those conversations, and I think it's important. I think it's important to have conversation. That's why I do what I do, you know. But do that face to face too. Do that face to face.
Keep that
Talk
same
to
energy.
right.
you
Do
better
that face
sit
to
on
face.
one end of the couch and the other end because people will come to blows.
Okay. Now, I
Be
want
careful.
to, because we got to do this. A large part of Let's Talk It Out is definitely our people who are in the chat. They're definitely a part of the conversation. So I think it's important. You just read a comment that I was going to read, Brother Fatim, but let's get what some of these people are saying here. We've got Miss Bequilla Irvin Cannon in here. She said, I stand with you. She said, dealing with our own leadership. They use our own and will place a mold to keep control. We know
Come
that
on,
to be
Sister
true.
Cannon. Come on, Sister Cannon.
Now listen. And then we've got Hannah Parker, and she says, what's sad is when the mole doesn't know they are the mole.
Look, we
Bingo.
all silent. We all quiet.
Bingo. I gave 2 bells.
Hey, I had to drop the mic.
Mhm.
And that's true. That is so unfortunate when people get so tied up into being connected or making connections that they feel that are putting them in a position, which I have to say, personal positions, they don't even know how they're affecting an entire body of people.
Don't you have a black U.S. senator that could fit that? I'm just thinking.
We've got a whole lot of
Focus at home.
folks
I want
can
the
say
folk to
that.
know. I want you all listening to Miss Tanya's show and all of us focus at home.
Mhm.
Focus. That's the first place that you need to be focused on is focusing at home. If you in South Carolina, scvotes.gov, check your registration. It got to be 30 days before you vote. You have to have that done. If you don't have real ID, make sure that you go to the DMV and get your real ID so you can fly. But to make sure that you can vote, tell somebody else that. You can also contact cubnsc.com. You ain't got no ID. You know somebody don't got an ID. We're going to try to make sure they get their birth certificate so that they can get an ID. And we putting our money where our mouth is. Now, look, we ain't rich. We ain't got a whole lot of money. But if you know somebody, a brother or a sister that really wants to vote, which we all should, and they're trying and they don't have their birth record, you call me and let me know, or go to cubnsc.com, send me a message. We're going to try to find a birth record and make sure that they can get their ID. Let's
Absolutely.
do that. Let's do
And
that.
Brother Javar and Sister Tanya, do you go? There's another gentleman. He's a white guy, Greg Palace. He's another person that, if you're interested in having him on your show, I'll connect you, because he talks about what happened in Georgia and now what's happening across the country. Is so many people are being purged from the voter rolls, and
Right.
if you don't check, you won't know. So you got to understand they are purging people from the voter rolls. They are sending something to your house. If you don't respond, they're purging from the voter rolls, and you think you're registered and you're not registered.
You're right. We've got Hannah here. She said, nationally, you can go to vote411.org to check your registration and register as well. She also let us know that, and I appreciate you getting in here and letting people know these things because we've got to share this information. She said, Happy National Voter Registration Day. All right. So a lot of people didn't know that, but you know that now. So do it today. Go
Do it
online
today.
today. Do it today. All
Do
right.
it today.
Guys, this has been an incredible conversation. We definitely have to do this again. I want to shout out someone else here. Kimberly Sinclair, she said, checking in from Texas. Late getting in here, but here, shout out to all my Carolina folks. She's
What's
hometown
up,
proud.
Kimberly?
All right. So listen, we've got work to do.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do. We can't, yes, there are things that we have to address, but I do say that there's a time and a place for everything. And sometimes we've got to let some things, sometimes it's not anything for me to say because I've got some work to do. I might look like I'm not saying anything to you, but you have no idea what I'm doing behind the scenes. Make sure that you're doing something because what we do looks different for all of us.
Yeah.
But be a part of the solution.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Sister
All right. I
Tonya,
appreciate you.
you made me
All
proud,
right,
Sister
man.
Tonya, and I've known you,
Yes.
Brother Javar. This is the first time meeting you. You've made me hold my head up high today because by meeting you all, I know Sister Tonya, but meeting Javar and not knowing who he is and knowing the work that he's done, I need to get with this brother because I want to put him on some of the platforms that I'm on because this is so instrumental, and especially you, Sister Tonya, because you're a leader in your own right, leading as a woman, as a Black woman, as a sister. But Brother Javar, dynamic. And I just want to say this real quick. This is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and this is September Sickle Cell Awareness Month. I lost my wife to sickle cell disease 2 years ago. And this month, like I said, Sickle Cell Awareness Month is about raising awareness. Sickle cell disease is an inherited blood disorder that affects the shape and function of the red blood cells. And if you do something on sickle cell, I'm an advocate for sickle cell disease, and I would love to come back if you do something on sickle cell disease this month or in the future.
Y'all donate to the show. Y'all send MsTonya a tip.
Not a verbal tip. We ain't talking about a verbal tip now.
Oh, good. That girl good. That's what.
Such a chocolate. Such a chocolate.
All right, guys. All right. Listen, everybody. It's been Talk It Out Tuesday. And I got to tell you, I have enjoyed the conversation that I've been able to have with these guys here. I've enjoyed you all who came in and shared your lunch with us. Talk It Out Tuesday with MsTonya. It was Timeline Tuesday. So that's what it is. We have these conversations, but that's a wrap. All right. The timeline keeps moving, but the conversation does not stop here. I want you guys to subscribe. I want you to share, and I want you to pull up next Tuesday at noon. But until then, stay sharp, stay real, and keep talking it out. That's what we got to do. All right. Y'all know how it goes.